Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the 10 Sefirot Masterclass. I'm Elisheva, and I am so excited that you're here. I'm going to share my screen so that we can use some visuals. I think this is the most, this is the best part of doing things online is having visuals. They really do help. And let me know if you see my screen, by the way. Do you see? Yes, okay, great. I'm getting a thumbs up by Yarden from Angela. Amazing. So this session is going to be recorded. You're welcome to keep your video on or off. And we're starting a little bit late because there was an issue with the link, but it's going to be an hour session starting from 8:20. So it'll be until 9:20, the session. So welcome, welcome. This is such an exciting experience because we are stepping into Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, which begins the day after the Seder. And we are starting to count 49 days until we receive the Torah. And this is such an important time because when it comes to Pesach itself, every single day is a mini dose of light that we have to refine our character. And what's very interesting is that we will be 6 months away from Elul, from doing the high holidays. Again, we're diving deeper into the cycles. And this is why it's incredibly in our benefit to follow the rhythms of the Hebrew calendar. Now, before I begin, I'm going to give this class in the honor of my mother, Zachor Bracha. May her memory be a blessed memory. And if anyone also wants to add in a prayer for someone, you're welcome to do it in the chat. I can see this chat. So if there's someone that you know passed away or is sick and needs extra healing, then please do keep them in mind. This class is for the elevation of my mom, Leilui Nishmat Amy Janet Bat Brenda Chava. And for Am Yisrael, may Hashem continue to protect us, to give us miracles, whether they be seen or unseen. May the Chayalim, the soldiers, have siyata deshmaya. May they be successful in everything that they do. And may the remaining hostages return alive. And may anyone affected from this past couple of years in Israel, may they have complete healing of their body, of their soul, and may Hashem continue to show us that the redemption is coming, that it's here, and may we all continue to uplift the world. So anyone is welcome to add anything in the chat, and we'll keep them in mind throughout the learning. So learning about the 10 Sefirot has always been something that sparked tremendous curiosity for me, like a magnetic pull almost to explore the structure and its meaning. It pretty much hypnotized me when I looked at each sphera. Every single time, there was always this instant pull to it, a meditation, even just gazing at it, at its path, at the structure, at the spheres. And tonight we are doing an introduction masterclass to the 10 Sefirot. So whether you have prior knowledge, a little knowledge, or you're an advanced student, or you have nothing at all, from this first session, you will learn how to read the Sefirot structure, and you'll have an intro into each sphera and where it corresponds to the body, and you can start using it on yourself for your own healing practices. And ultimately, to understand the fundamental aspect of Kabbalah, of creation, and of your essence. Now, it's so important to know that this class won't teach you everything about the Sefirot because it's more of a series. It's a lifetime learning process to learn every single year. When I'm even teaching about the Hebrew months, the Hebrew calendar, or the holidays, I'm always uncovering a new layer of the teaching. So tonight, I won't be teaching you everything about the Sefirot, but I encourage you to continue to learn about them. It's a magnificent subject within Kabbalah. It's fundamental. So why I am giving this masterclass is for my mastermind, where we will be dedicating classes to speak about 1 to 2 Sefirot in depth, called from root to crown, from Malchut, which you will learn, to crown, to Keter, where we will be going through the whole Sefirot structure. And we'll be also having a customized embodiment practice for each Sefirah, and we will be unraveling our understanding of creation through getting to know our own essence. That is the mastermind, and today is the masterclass of the Sefirot. So doing this masterclass essentially is a prerequisite to the mastermind. Each person who is with us tonight, whether it be you're catching the recording or you're here live, this is a special invitation to learn. My teacher always said that learning Kabbalah, the secrets of the Torah, is upon invitation. That is the beauty of Kabbalah, is that your soul is ready to learn something. But if you don't understand something fully, not only about in this class, but in Kabbalah in general, that is the process of learning Kabbalah. We're not always meant to learn to understand everything in Kabbalah. Sometimes our soul knows it before our own mind does. And we need to trust that. So every person here, either live or catching the recording, is meant to be in this space. So thank you so much for joining, for being here and just listening. And just by listening and by participating, you're elevating this world with light. You are bringing the light of redemption into this world. So may Hashem be here with us, guide us in this session, and may you understand and learn something exactly as you need to for your growth, for your time here, and for where you are exactly in your life. So what does this session include? We are going to look at what the Sefirot are, and we're going to look at 2 texts. We're going to look at Sefer Yetzira and Chaim to understand the creation of the Sefirot and why they still matter today. And then we're going to talk from Malchut to Keter. Malchut is the root, the lowest Sefirah, which you'll see an image of shortly, to Keter, the highest. And we'll also talk about Daat. And then we'll also look at the Sefirot in our body, where we'll map out exactly where the Sefirot lives in the body. And then we will end with an embodiment practice to feel the Sefirot alive in our bodies. And it's a very powerful practice to do. So what is Kabbalah? And I think this is a very important question to start with, because thank God I'm seeing a lot of Kabbalah just everywhere. And I really feel, and that is what's going to happen when redemption comes, that the secrets of the Torah will be revealed and accessible to people. That's when we know Mashiach is coming. It doesn't matter the religion that you're at, or male or female. The opposite. Women are actually meant to learn Kabbalah because it is through the woman the redemption actually comes. We are the ones who are raising the next generation. So when the woman is able to understand the depths of the Torah, then she passes it on and she brings it into the home. So the woman actually lead with this redemption. And so what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah, the term means to receive. So, and that's referring to the teachings, the esoteric wisdom that we are actually receiving, Kabbalah, lekabel, where we are receiving that wisdom. Again, we don't always fully understand it. And this is something that I'm going to get into the book called Chaim, which talks about that there's specific subjects in Kabbalah that you learn in the book, but you don't dive too deep into it. And it literally warns you about it. It says, don't ask too many questions about this, but I will tell you about it. And I think it has like a little humor to it, because Kabbalah is a very serious subject, but at the same time, you're able to take it and to guide your life with it. And as much as it's very serious, it's also, you can find some humor in it as well, which is very fascinating and which I love. So Kabbalah is the mystical branch of the Torah. that reveals the hidden spiritual structure behind creation. And it is exploring how the infinite, known as the Ein Sof, manifests itself in the physical world. So it's teaching us about the divine light, our soul, the energetic blueprint of the universe through concepts such as the Sefirot, Tzimtzum, the divine contraction, the four spiritual worlds. Like, I know these might be terms and concepts that you may have heard for the very first time. And these are subjects that are all rooted in ancient texts like the Zohar, for example, Sefer Yetzira, the book of formation or creation, and then it's Chaim, the writings of the Ari. And Kabbalah offers deeper insights into the purpose of existence and how we can align ourselves with God, with Hashem. So we're seeing Kabbalah as a blueprint for our time here. And as you see here, it says Pardes. What is Pardes? So there are 4 different layers to the Torah. So the Pei, the first letter here, Pei, stands for Pshat, the simple meaning of the Torah, where you're taking things at face value. For example, Bereshit, where God created the world, you would just read it as Bereshit. And then you have Remez, which is sort of like hinting to something. These are 4 different levels. And then you have Drash, which is a deeper level right before Sod, the secret. And this is an acronym called Pardes. And these are 4 different levels to the Torah. And right now we are learning Sod. We are learning the secrets. And what Kabbalah does is that it's taking, Kabbalah is basically explaining what is happening spiritually behind the laws, behind the halacha, and behind the stories, which I'm going to explain to you exactly how in a few more slides. So Kabbalah reveals the architecture of reality, how Hashem manifests in creation, how human beings reflect divine image, and how we can realign ourselves with divine will. So Kabbalah essentially is a map of divine intelligence, guiding us through spiritual development, inner transformation, and the teachings are encoded in the language of metaphor, numbers, letters, and light. So we are learning about this, and we need to use metaphors that essentially don't really exist, but we need to have them so that we can understand it. That's how we're able to understand God, that we need to use these metaphors. And I'm going to explain more about that when we're learning about the Sefirot. So you see here on the third point, the 10 utterances in the Torah, Esra Mamarot. So when we're seeing Kabbalah, it already is inside the Torah. Many people are saying, no, don't learn Kabbalah. It's not the Torah, but it's actually within the Torah that we see Kabbalah. And that's very important to know. So Hashem created, what are 10 utterances? That Hashem created the world with 10 words, with speech. And it's very interesting because in the Hebrew month of Nisan, which we're currently on, today's April 6th, which is the 8th of Nisan, and the letter of this month is Hey, which is manifestation, which is speaking. So Hashem creates the world not with physical labor, but through speech. And God said, let there be creation. So these are known as the Aserat HaMamarot, the 10 utterances through which the world was created. So there's 10 of them. I'm not going to go into all of them right now. That's like a whole different class. But I thought it was really cool to mention that the word Bereshit, at least, itself is considered an utterance. And its meaning, creation began with divine will itself. So that's a really interesting thing to know, that each utterance is not just a command, but a channel through which a specific aspect of divine energy flows into the world. And there's 10 utterances and 10 Sefirot. That's already connection to the 10 Sefirot. That's already where we see. But if someone is just learning the pshat, they say, okay, 10 utterances, just in 10 ways. But when you look into the deeper levels of the Torah, You're seeing that, oh, there was 10 Sefirot. There was also 10 plagues during Pesach. We have 10 fingers. Each finger actually also corresponds to one of the 10 Sefirot. So that's also something that we'll be learning deeper in the Mastermind. So according to Kabbalah, these 10 utterances correspond to the 10 Sefirot, the spiritual blueprint of creation. So the 10 Sefirot, the 10 divine emanations, the Sefirot are, it's a sphere, which you'll see soon, the structure of it. What I put here on this slide are 2 books that will change your life when you read them. The first one being Sefer Yetzira, and the second one is Chaim. So the 10 Sefirot, the 10 emanations, are the building blocks of the universe, the channels through which the Ein Sof, and I'm going to say Ein Sof, the infinite one, which is high, which where it's like infinite, complete infinite, reveals itself and interacts with creation. This is very important because how can Hashem interact with our world? He uses tools, just like any great artist or a chef or a painter, a contractor. Every person, also us, we need tools to create with. So Hashem also needed to use tools to create with. They're not parts of God, God forbid, but rather they are the modes or the attributes through which Hashem interacts with creation. So you can think of them as a spiritual vessel for divine light. And that is, so each sphera corresponds to a level of consciousness and a layer of the human experience, reflecting how man is created, but B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God. So now the 2 sources that I put here, Sefer Yetzirah and Chaim. So Sefer Yetzirah, why I choose these 2 books to learn from. So Chaim was, I first started learning Kabbalah with Sefer Yetzirah, and then right away I went into Chaim to learn with my teacher. I was just so drawn to it. And even until today, I'm still learning it 2 years later. We do a little paragraph once a week and we learn it, but it takes time. These are books with volumes. Kabbalah is not something that you say, oh, I learned Kabbalah here and there. No, it is a commitment and something that you learn and then you implement in your life. So Sefer Yetzirah, it's attributed to Avraham Avinu according to tradition, and it's compiled and edited in later centuries, like the 2nd and 6th century. It's one of the first books of Kabbalah. It's the earliest text of Kabbalah, and it's laying the foundation for all later mystical works. So in Sefer Yetzirah, it speaks of the Sefirot as 10. So you see here it says Eser Sefirot Blima, Eser Velo Teisha, Eser Velo Chadesre. So what is Sefer Yetzirah saying? That the 10 Sefirot are 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. It's literally going out of its way to say this is how much and how many Sefirot are there. So, and I know that there's some confusion with Daat, which I'm going to get into, where people say, oh, there's an 11th Sefirah. No, there's not an 11th Sefirah. We're going to go learn about Daat as well, so you can understand how Daat plays into the structure, how Daat is one of the Sefirot. So the text is a blueprint, linking the numbers, the letters, the cosmos. So Sefer Yetzirah is making a point of saying that there's only 10 Sefirot. And Chaim, which is written by Rabbi Chaim Vital, which he took the teachings of his teacher, the Ari Zal, in the 16th century of Tzfat. And the difference between these 2 writings is that Chaim, which means the tree of life, is the main book that explains the deep teachings of the Ari. And this book lays out how the spiritual world works behind the scenes and how God's infinite light flows into creation step by step through different stages and spiritual energies called the Sefirot. So what does Chaim say about the Sefirot. And this is something that's very interesting to know. What does it say? And in Etz Chaim, the Sefirot are shown as channels or tools that God uses to bring the world into being through kindness, through strength, through harmony, and so on. But more than just divine qualities, the book explains how these Sefirot are like spiritual building blocks that work together to shape everything that exists, from the highest spiritual world to everyday life. So each Sefirah is like a vessel that holds divine light. And when the vessel is balanced, the world runs smoothly. But when there's too much light or the vessels aren't strong enough, things break. This is where the book introduces the idea of Shvirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels. I'm sure this is something that some people have heard about if you've learned Kabbalah before, that there was something known where the vessels shattered, the shattering of the vessels. So this is a way to understand why there's pain or imbalance or chaos in the world. And the good news, us as human beings, through our actions, through our choices, through our mitzvot, through our inner work, we can help fix and rebuild those vessels. This process is called tikkun, or a spiritual repair. And that's why it's so important to learn about the Sefirot, because we are learning, and why is it so relevant to today? Because we are learning how to repair the world. The more that we're able to repair the inner vessels of the spirit within us, then the outer world begins to go through its own tikkun, its own repairing process. So Etz Chaim is teaching that the world isn't random, but it's all part of a bigger spiritual system. And we are not only part of it, but we are the ones who are affecting it. Every thought, every word, our actions sends an energy through the Sefirot. We all are made up of our own Sefirot. We all have the same type of Sefirot, the same structure, but we're all have it. And it impacts the world. So when we align ourselves with those energies, we bring more light and healing and repairing into the world. And we are going now into the process called Sfirat HaOmer, where we get to bring repairing into the world, where we get to bring a tikkun into the world. We get to bring more light and healing. So Etz Chaim is really showing us how the universe runs on divine energy and how we can learn to live in the flow with it. So this is such a really important text to learn. So also when we're learning about how there's 10 Sefirot, Sefer Yetzira continues to explain how do we study them. We examine them, we explore them, and we make each one stand as its own essence, each and every single one of them. And this is in Sefer Yetzira. So Sefer Yetzira begins by teaching them that the entire universe is built on the 10 Sefirot. And the word over here, blima, means nothingness or restraint. So the idea is that creation came from the idea is that creation did not come from physical material, but it came from divine energy, shaped through limitation. Again, it came from divine energy, shaped through limitation. The root word balam means to hold back or to restrain, so that the Sefirot are not things, they're containers. They're a vessel for the divine light, born from holding back infinity so that something can exist. And I'm going to show you that in an image, where sometimes the deepest strength is in restraint, not doing but making space. For example, we have to make space for something to exist. So just like Hashem, again, this is the concept of tzimtzum, of contraction, where Hashem had to contract himself to allow the world to exist. So we too must make space, and that's also what we're doing now for Pesach. We're cleaning out our homes, and it's in this preparation process where the space is made so that the energy can have a home within it. Like, how can you bring in, for example, I think relationships are one of the best examples, but how can you have a relationship, a thriving relationship, when you're stuck in a relationship from a few years ago? How can you make that space? Or how can, like, I know for myself, like, how can I bring in a child? Like, that was my biggest question. How can I bring in a child? Well, that first of all took a lot of removing of myself, where, okay, it's just not about me anymore. It's not only me, but it's the existence of this other human being, which I began to understand Kabbalah, and that was through having children. So we have to make that space in our thoughts, in our relationships, in our inner world, for something new to emerge. And according to Chaim, creation actually begins with divine will. So before any creation existed, there was the infinite light, the Or and Sof, perfectly unified. Everything was connected. Everything was one. We were all one. Our souls were with the infinite. But this is like a whole subject for a whole different time. But again, just going back to that subject of tzimtzum, of contraction, it was because of that will, of that desire. It was the ratzon. Ratzon is Hebrew for will, that Hashem willed. He desired that the world to be created. And that was when the creation actually started. So now going into the Sefirot. Over here, there are 3 Sefirot. To understand even what a Sefirah is, the word Sefirah comes from the Hebrew root word Sefer, which is Samech Peresh. I don't have it here, I'm so sorry, which means to count, the spol. And it also sounds like to shine, illuminate, like sapphires, sapphires, to illuminate. So a sefirah is not just a spiritual thing or a level, it's a channel. Again, this is a channel or a lens through which Hashem's light can interact with the world, where Hashem can express his light into his world. Now I'm going to take you into understanding these 3 charts, because this is so important to know, because this is the foundation of Kabbalah. This is the foundation of creation. So where did the Sefirot come from? So the Sefirot are the 10 channels through which the divine light will flow from the Ein Sof. So you see here, if everyone could look at my screen, here there's this blackness or white, right? We see all this whiteness. So technically, the Ein Sof is that whiteness, where the Ein Sof is just the infinite is just flowing into creation. And Hashem had to, again, do its tzimtzum, and then create the space. And this is how Hashem was able to interact with our world. And this structure of the Sefirot, there's different teachings, for example, Chaim and the Sefirot, but we're going with the teachings of Chaim. This is, again, from the Arizal. So we are learning right now on these 3 structures. Everyone is pretty much familiar on this structure over here on the far right side, on my right. And this is known as birodim, or there's 3 columns. Have you maybe, again, if you learned Kabbalah before, then maybe you heard of the 3-column system, for example. So this is what many people are familiar with. This is the tree of life. This is the Sefirot, or in Hebrew, or in Kabbalistic terms, this is called birodim. But something happened in the early stages of creation where Hashem's light was so intense, known as Shvirat HaKelim, and these vessels, kelim, kli in Hebrew means vessel, they shattered. And this is known as shattering of the vessels. And in the world of Tohu, it's chaos, the light entered the Sefirot, but they weren't yet connected or harmonized. As you see over here, this is known as Nikudim, dotted. They all have Keter, Chochma, Bina. All they have, each and every one of them still have the same three top Sefirot, like 3 points. But the lower Sefirot are all beneath each other, where the light overflowed. So for example, the light overflowed into Daat, shattered. The light overflowed into Chesed, shattered, and so on and so on and so on until it reached Malchut, the last Sefirah, but it did not shatter. That's what's very interesting. And like the shattering of the vessels is something that we will go deeper into the Mastermind, because what happened when the light shattered was that we need to return those spikes, sorry. We need to return those sparks, the nitzotzot, and that's the tikkun that we're doing. So when we're saying a bracha, when you're saying a prayer before you eat, when you're doing an act of kindness, that is when we are repairing the world, where we're uplifting the sparks. There's even the story of the Baal Shem Tov, where he took him and his students to travel really far into the forest. And the Baal Shem Tov gets off the wagon and he goes and drinks from the river. He says a bracha, and then he's like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to go. And then the students were like, but we traveled so far, like, for you only to drink water here? And he's like, I had a feeling that no one came to say a prayer here on the water. The idea is to elevate the water to say a prayer because there's sparks that have fallen into the water. And we want to uplift them. We want to uplift the nitzotzot. And there are 288 sparks that need to be uplifted. So when the Sefirot shattered, it created essentially like a broken world where the holy, where God is more hidden in the physical matter. And our job through the Torah, through the mitzvot, is to gather those sparks. And this is the tikkun. The tikkun is the spiritual repair of the vessels and the alignment of Sefirot. So where we're going from this, which also looks like a sword, which is very interesting, into Berodim. So this, where is this coming from? This is coming from the Torah. This is where we are seeing, okay, there's this pasuk over here from Parshat Vayetzeh. And we're seeing here that, okay, if someone was to learn or read the Parsha, it would just be, okay, it's just another Parsha paragraph, but it's not. And it's basically saying that in the origin of the spiritual process of the Sefirot, it's hinted in the Bereshit and the story of Yaakov and the flocks, like his sheep, where he was working for his father-in-law, Lavan. And this may seem like a simple narrative, but according to the Arizal in Etz Chaim, it encodes the 3 stages of creation. You see, this is where Sod, where the secrets come in. So before our world can be formed, before our world, so there were these Sefirot, these structures before the one that we're all familiar with, before Birudim. So Yaakov, for example, in the story, he takes care of Lavan's flocks and separates the animals based on their fur. Akudim, which is mingled, which is like they have like the spots, and they have like dots, mingled spots all together. So that's akudim, where we're seeing here circle, and then you also see here the tree of life, which I'm going to get into in a second. We're seeing here, it actually goes really deeper into it because it also explains the 3 different religions in the world. This is the Aravim, Mu'urav. You hear the word Mu'urav, means to make a mesh of something, to combine everything together, basically. So it's Mu'urav. So that's the Aravim, where, okay, so we have a lot of similarities in our religions, but it's kind of like mixed together with Christianity, which is this one, which is the sword, which we all know that Christianity, part of it, what they were doing, they did a lot of murder and a lot of fighting, and they used their swords a lot. So it also looks like a sword. And then here, the last one is Judaism, and we also see here the Star of David inside. So that's what we see. So here in Akudim, everything's mixed together. In Nikudim, everything is one underneath each other. They're all pointed, they're all dots. And then the last one, Birudim, spotted. These three terms are used to describe the physical sheep, but they actually represent the cosmic phases of development in the spiritual structure of the Sefirot. Okay, so the Akudim are the first one is when all the Sefirot exists within one vessel, completely united, all one, and it's representing unity without differentiation. Like we can't tell the difference. Like it's just a mess, no expression. And then the second one is Nikudim. As I explained before, there's a single line, a point of light, straight in a vertical line, and it's the world of chaos, basically, where everyone is trying to steal the light for themselves. And there's this very famous or well-known term in Kabbalah called Ani Emloch, I am the king. And this is what happens when everyone tries to receive for the sake of themselves, just to receive from themselves alone, where they're not sharing it, where they're just, and this is like sort of takes the balance off. It ticks it off. And this is already really advanced Kabbalah, and this results in Shvirat Kelim, the shattering of the vessels. So this is where the stage where the Sefirot broke, because there's no harmony when you don't share. And this goes into really deep Kabbalah, and that's what we'll be learning deeper in the Mastermind, from root to crown. And the last one, this is one that we're all familiar with, and this is why it's so relevant today, because this is where the Sefirot begin to interconnect, where they begin to form relationships, and this brings balance to the energy. So the spotted animals have both light and dark, both sides. That's what was read in the Parsha. That this is the beginning of the repair, the sharing, that the Sefirot are now combined, communicating, and they're forming together. They're forming the structure that has the recipe to succeed. They're organized into a functional tree of life where there's 3 columns, where the energy is spread equally between each and every one of them, where there's masculine and feminine dynamics. Birudim is the beginning of so many things. So the spiritual lesson that we're learning just from learning these 3 charts is that true spirituality or true spiritual maturity is balance, holding the opposites and integrating light and dark, because that's what we're seeing here. There's the feminine, there's the masculine, and then there's the balance between them. That is what we're learning. So the tikkun begins when we allow the flow between all the parts of ourselves. And that's when we get to really understand our essence, where we don't hide or we don't turn away the darker parts of ourselves, but we begin to integrate them and allow for them to also to be expressed. And that's what's really teaching us. So now, and as you see here, there are 3 columns, but that's something that we're going to learn deeper in the Mastermind. Now, I just wanted to mention, for example, okay, before we move into learning about each Sefirah, this is very important, and this is, again, coming from Etz Chaim. Again, so we have the Birudim, we have the Tree of Life right over here. And this is what everyone is familiar with, what I just explained about. And we have all these different pathways. And on the left side, we have a circle, which are also the Sefirot. And Kabbalah teaches that there's 2 kinds of Sefirot structures. And this is very interesting. We have the right one, which is yosher, known as yosher in Hebrew, and a Kabbalistic term, which means straight. What happens when you are on the path of growth, of personal development? It's not linear, right? Everyone says that, oh, it's not a linear path to growth. Right, that's true. Kabbalah has been saying that since creation, basically, that the path is not linear. And of course, it makes sense. But the idea is that you're going up and down. We're going up and down. There's this process that we go on. Sometimes we move up the ladder, and then we move down the ladder. Then we move up, right? So that's like how it is. Sometimes we revert back to our old habits, but then we pick ourselves up and then we try again. So that is how we're able to use the Sefirot for incredible growth, for our essence, to understand our essence. That's how we can use it. But what about over here with this big circle? In Kabbalistic terms, this is known as igulim, a circle, many circles. Igul means circle, and igulim means many circles. And I put here pictures of a hamster wheel and a man on a hamster wheel, just like running around, because igulim, for example, when we are learning about the Sefirot, you build your consciousness, your awareness. And when someone is in igulim, when someone is in for example, when someone says, oh, I feel like I'm just going round and around again, like, oh, another season, oh, here's summer again. I feel like I'm just going through the same phases all the time in life. I'm just going through the same thing, different day. When someone is stuck in a process, like in the same process, in the same routine, and this is animals, for example. Animals, they can't climb the healing ladder or the personal development ladder. They don't have that type of consciousness that we have, right? It's very different. They have they have their pretty much their innate abilities of, okay, they wake up, they hunt for food, they check the shelter, they get their water, they feed their kids if they have them, their offspring, but they don't try to learn Torah. They don't try to do something different. So when someone is in igulim, when someone is just going through the same thing, different day, every single time. So the igulim is when someone is just stuck in a hamster wheel, basically, where they go to work and then they go home. Or someone is not trying to break free from the same routine. It's just the same thing, different day. And then they're stuck in this hamster wheel of life where they find no meaning, no purpose, no life, no growth. They're just stuck again in the hamster wheel. So Sefer, so Chaim talks about this, and it goes really deep into understand the differences. But what's very interesting is that it says we don't take so much time to learn about igulim because it will just be stuck in igulim. It's very interesting, but then it explains about it, and that's the humor of it. So that's important to know, that when we are learning about the Sefirot, you are learning the pathway, the blueprint for the greatest growth that Hashem has given us. He says, okay, here are the two choices that we have. We can either be stuck in the hamster wheel of life, or we're climbing up and down. And that means falling is natural. It's all part of the process. But it is that strength to rise up again, that we can reach the higher level. So this is what learning about the Sefirot can do for us. Now, this is where we're going to learn about how the Sefirot, I'm just going to check how much time that we have. Okay, where the Sefirot is actually connected to each body part. And this has healed me in so many ways. It has healed me so much to connect to each Sefirah every single morning, even if it's just one of them, on my own body, because it talks to you. The body talks to you when we slow down long enough. So, for example, I'm going to go into this. For example, we're going into Keter. We're going to start by the crown, and then we're going to make our way down to the root. And the Masterminds, we're actually going to start through the root up to the crown. We're going to start opposite, but today we're going to start with the crown because it's just much easier that way. So we have Keter over here. Keter means crown. And Sefer Yetzira refers to this as the depth of the beginning. Omek Rashit. And Chaim describes it, Keter, as the divine will, the first impulse towards creation. And for example, when you get a spark of idea or something, so the Keter is sitting above your head. Here we see over here, the color of it is a white, pure gold light that's sitting above your head. When you're meditating, for example, sometimes you might feel a tingling sensation. So that is it is the channel that we have towards creation. And the function of the Sefirah is to connect to Hashem's will of creation. So this is, and how it experiences within us is through intuition, pure desire, the why behind our action. It is our highest potential. It is our above consciousness. It is the root of all Sefirot. It is our connection to the divine. That is what the Keter is. It's the highest Sefirah. Keter is the gateway, and that's another way to say it. Keter is the gateway through which the Ein Sof, the infinite light, begins to flow into the structure. So if, for example, if you're doing any healing work and you want to open up that faucet of the Ein Sof, you want to be able to open up, and I'm talking about on yourself, I'm not talking about anyone else. That's a whole different program. That's something else. This is only to understand your own essence. But the flow of the Ein Sof, as it goes into you, then it really begins to spread down through the rest of the structure, into the rest of the Sefirot. So Keter, it's the faucet of the Ein Sof's light to come down. Now we're going to go into Chokhmah. This is the right side of the body, which is known as the masculine. Right, central, and feminine. So we're going to go to Chokhmah, which means wisdom. And Chokhmah, in Chaim, it teaches that Chokhmah is the flash of insight that we have. The first revelation of light after the tzimtzum, after the contraction. So essentially, the Chokhmah is the seed of an idea. It's the masculine, it's the first seed of creation from something from nothing. If you ever heard that term before, something from nothing, where you're creating something from nothing. Like we create bread, something from nothing, just from basic ingredients. And what it does for us, how do we experience Chokhmah? It has creative bursts, for example, being visionary, our inner knowing. The Chokhmah receives directly from Keter. We see that it directly receives from Keter without words. It's beyond explanation. Like sometimes you have a sensation of an idea. But when do we begin to solidify that idea? Well, that is through Bina. We see here the light of Chokhmah goes into Bina. Bina, which means understanding. So this is the depth of understanding that we have, which is available to us. So as Chaim explains that Bina, as the power to contain, to analyze and develop Chokhmah. Okay, we had this spark of idea. Okay, we had a spark of idea to make a change in our home. But how are we going to do it? How are we going to build the porch? So it's giving form to the inspiration. This is beginning the feminine, the deeper thought, the insight into it. So in its experience through us, through thought, through processing, the power to give birth to ideas. And Bina, what it does, it also has letter Hey, also like Chokhmah at the end, which is very interesting because Hey is also that feminine. So Bina expands the spark of wisdom into structure. In Kabbalah, this is called Ima Ila'ah, the supernal mother, the higher mother. And we'll get into the lower mother as well. So this is the higher mother, like the grandmother with the wisdom into structure, who knows how to get things done. Now, we're going to go into Daat. Here you see that Daat doesn't exist. But Daat is the knowledge, the inner connection. Daat is not mentioned, I'm going to say it, Daat is not mentioned explicitly in Sefer Yetzirah because it is hidden. But it is hinted as the place where the Sefirot integrates, which is important. In Chaim, for example, Daat is what connects the mind to the heart, unifying Chokhmah and Bina. So this is the intimacy, awareness, interconnection between the Chokhmah and the Bina. So that's like deep focus, attachment, and trust. For example, Adam knew Chava, right? So that's coming from Bereshit. Daat, knew, implies the deep experiential knowing. That's what it is. It's this deep knowing that appears when Keter is too lofty to be perceived. And what's very interesting that even with all these Sefirot, they are very lofty. This is a massive idea. So each Sefirah, I'm just going through them. I'm giving you an introduction of them. But each one of them really deserves its own class. Whole class. Truly. Even its own class or even two. I really encourage you to continue learning. Daat is only counted when Keter is hidden. When Keter is counted, Daat becomes absorbed and it's hidden again. Now we're going to move down the structure into Chesed, blue. Chesed is loving kindness, the depth of goodness. Chaim talks about Chesed as the right arm. I forgot to mention that Chokhmah is the right brain, Bina is the left brain. For Chesed, is the right arm of giving. You know, we always give tzedakah with our right hand. It's that overflow of love, of unlimited generosity. For example, blue is like water, and when we turn on the faucet or when we're looking into the ocean, it's this unlimited amount of flowing water of chesed that's just overflowing, right? Of generosity. It's this compassion, this nurturing, this service to give to others. Chesed is this pure flow, like a river of light, abundant. But we need to be kept in check, right? The ocean, it needs to have the shores so that the water just doesn't expand onto all the earth, right? So Hashem, when he was creating the world, God put boundaries known as here in the Sefirot on the left arm, Gvura, severity, which is the color of a deep red. So severity is like putting boundaries, strength, or judgment, knowing where to give your kindness. For example, if someone is not in a healthy relationship, they might not know how to put their kindness in a relationship. They don't know how to put that boundary. So Gevurah is putting boundary to the kindness, to tuning the flow of chesed, or tuning the flow of water when you're turning on the faucet. So this is restricting the chesed so that it doesn't overwhelm. It puts limitations or boundaries. It's giving discipline to it. It allows us to use our judgment. So it's saying no, for example. Restraint, putting in justice, or having courage. How much courage does it say? How much courage do you need to say no, right? So Gevurah essentially creates the space for not too much giving, because too much giving would destroy, right? If we give too much, we're depleted. So we need to know exactly what is our boundaries. And that's what Gevurah gives us. Now we're moving here into the middle one, Tiferet, which is very interesting because this is where all of the pathways of all the Sefirot connect to. Tiferet, which is such a beautiful name, is the harmony, it's the beauty. And Sefer Yetzira even applies that this is a central point, a balance point. It is the balance point in the tree. So all of the pathways Min and Tiferet. So it blends chesed and gevura into truth and harmony. So it is the heart of the tree. It's compassion, it's the balance. And within us, how does it have an expression? Through empathy, integrity, emotional truth. Tiferet is also associated with Torah, with Yaakov, Avinu, and Rachamim, with mercy. This is what Tiferet gives us. And now we're going to move to Netzach, which is the right hip, the right leg. And Netzach is that active forward movement. Netzach is this victory, Lenatzeach, but it's this inner victory. It's like this endurance. In life we need endurance. Okay, for example, you have a business idea. You had this, let's say, an idea to open up a bakery. You had this spark of idea. Oh, let's make it gluten-free. Okay, great. A gluten-free bakery. Okay, now we're trying to understand how we're going to make that happen. What's the whole process? Will it be kosher? Where will we open up the first shop? Will it be in Jerusalem? Will it be in Tel Aviv? That's already Bina, right? But then Netzach, okay, we need endurance. We need to have perseverance when it comes to open up a business because it's hard. There's things that need to get done. And not every single day looks the same, right? Because we are in that path of going up and down in life sometimes. So we have to overcome our inner struggles, our inner doubt. Will it work out? Am I good enough? Does it taste good enough? So the Netzach is the active forward movement, this action, right? Whenever we walk into a new home or to a new place, we step in with our right foot of to strive forward. It's this leadership pushing through obstacles. But again, it's the obstacles that are always within. Yes, of course, there's the external circumstances, but how do you have that strength to overcome those external obstacles? Through Netzach, how you talk to yourself, through overcoming those inner battles. So Netzach is all about drive and having confidence. Now, okay, let's say you took that right step forward. Naturally, you take the left step forward with your left foot. And now we're reaching into Hod. Hod coming from the word Hodeya, which is coming from the word to be thankful, right? It's very interesting because in Etz Chaim, Hod, the left leg, is this this surrender to gratitude, this acknowledgement. Okay, let's say your business is thriving. Your bakery is thriving. Who do you think? Who is with you every step of the way when it was hard and difficult? Hashem, God. Who do you give gratitude towards? God. You're acknowledging God as an active partner in your life. This is what the left leg does. It's that humility, giving space to others. Not only people are saying, oh, I'm a self-made millionaire or billionaire, but the wise ones know that, okay, it wasn't just them, it was their team too. Okay, the CEO made all the decisions, but they had that team to go with them through the process that kept building them up, who kept giving them insight and tools on how to overcome these obstacles. So Hod is giving that acknowledgement that it's not a one-man show. It's actually a whole team, and including God. So while Netzach is pushing or moving forward, Hod pauses to acknowledge the blessing in the lives. Now we're moving down to Yesod. Yesod in the body is the genitals. And this is the foundation. And this, they say Yesod, at Tzaddik Yesod Olam. So they say that the Tzaddik is the foundation of the world. And this is also for the men, where one of the most important thing of doing the tikkun is with sexuality. Right? So Yesod is the funnel where, according to Etz Chaim, is the funnel where all the energies above converge and are prepared for manifestation. So you see here, We're about to enter Malchut, but first everything is coming into this one point, getting prepared, it's finalizing. So the Yesod, what do? We have connections, we have communication with people. So it's this emotional bond, this our sexuality, but healthy sexuality, healthy relationships. And in the mastermind, we're going to learn how to use the Sefirot for deeper healing on ourselves. So the Yesod is actually the power, a righteous person's power. And when I say righteous, yes, it can be someone who studies Torah and all of that, but deeper than that, a tzaddik is someone, according to Mishlei, according to Proverbs, is someone who falls 7 times and stands up 8. It's someone who has fallen, but then stands up again. And that's the power. It holds, it's taking the structure and saying, okay, I'm still going to choose to get up again. That is what is our power. So Yesod is that power. And it's such an important power when we're able to guard our sexuality. Dressing tznius or dressing modestly. There is power to it, right? We're not only focused on how we are externally, but how we are internally and what's happening within our inner world. So Yesod is our foundation. A lot of times it also connects to childhood if you're looking at it through the healer's perspective. Now, the last one is Malchut. Malchut has all the colors in it. Kingship. It's the receiving. It's the ultimate place where the rest of the Sefirot come into manifestation. So Malchut receives all and expresses it into the physical world. The function of Malchut is the manifestation, the speech, expression, leadership, action, and divine service. So the Malchut is our root, where we started from. Malchut is the Shekhinah, the divine feminine aspect, the presence on earth of Hashem. So when we're looking at Malchut, we're seeing it has all the colors in it. Each and every one of us has Malchut deep within us. And we all have all these Sefirot available to us. And with this information, while it's still super fresh, we're going now into the embodiment practice. I'm leaving up here the diagram so that you can have it, that you can, if you get lost in if you need to have a visual in the meditation practice and the embodiment practice, then you could just open your eyes, refer back to this, to the structure so that you can see it. So I'm going to invite you, if you need a moment to go to refresh, to drink some water, to get into a comfortable space, then I invite you to take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. We're going to bring our awareness to the top of our heads, where Keter is located. Again, this is where the divine will and awareness is located. In Kabbalah, when we're doing this embodiment practice, it's important to open up this portal. You can think of the Sefirot, like Keter, like the crown, the brain stem. You're opening up this portal gently, gently, and giving it a color of white, sparkly light coming down from this portal, all the way down, 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 down. And you might be feeling some tingling sensation, some heat. Opening up this portal, and you can visualize a bright light entering every fiber of your being. Taking a deep breath in and exhaling with a sigh, allowing that light to make its way down your body through these channels, through these energy channels, and seeing where this light is taking you. Or even if it wants to stay by Keter, maybe it wants to go down to Tiferet. Tiferet, the heart, the balance, the beauty, the compassion. Coming down, the Tiferet is located in the heart space. Some women say the lower spine as well. And this is a yellow light, the Tiferet. Taking a deep breath in. And exhale slowly with a nice sigh. Connecting deeper to the light of the Sefirot, really visualizing in your mind's eye, chokhmah, on the right side of your brain, giving energy and receiving energy from Keter and then going into Bina, your right side, the left side of your brain. And then from Bina, going down into Gevurah, knowing where you're putting your boundaries, where you get to say no. And saying no is not a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing where you are actually saying yes to yourself. And then moving from Gevurah to Chesed, where you get to choose to be in this overflow of kindness. Understanding the tremendous love that you have in your heart. Taking a deep breath in. And exhaling, coming now down to Tiferet, the balance of them. Now bringing your awareness to Netzach, the left hip, where you take a step forward, even if there are doubts and insecurities, if something will work. But you move forward, taking that step. And then bringing that energy into Hod, into acknowledging that Hashem has always been with you every step of the way. Beyond what you ever thought, beyond what you ever thought, what you ever could have imagined, that Hashem has been guiding you up until this very moment. Taking a deep breath in. And then exhaling, coming down to your Yesod, which can be in your pelvic floor of life, of movement, of connection, the foundation of who you are. Taking a deep breath in. And exhaling, bringing that energy down to your roots, down to your feet, into Malchut. The grounding, the force, the manifestation of where you get to manifest yourself into this world, where all the energy from different parts of your body are held, but then are brought down to this specific point, to this specific body part, where you get to choose the path that you're walking. And I invite you, even if you're sitting, to even take those steps forward, to even just walk. You either can really get up and walk, which is very encouraged, to really embody these energies. Malchut has all the energy in it. So I invite you to even stand up and begin walking and walking and walking, that you have been moving forward, where you've taken the steps And maybe you've even walked backwards a little bit. Taking a deep breath in and exhaling. I'm going to give you just 1 minute to connect to a sefira that might need your energy right now, that might need your attention, your awareness, that might need some expression. Go in there, explore it. There is wisdom within each and every one of them. Ask to greet it, to show up, to reveal itself to you. Taking a deep breath in and exhaling. Gently coming back to Keter, where we originally started. Making sure to return the light of the Ein Sof, of the divine, of the creator, of Hashem, to return that light. And once when that light has been returned, we want to thank the light. Thank you, Hashem, for coming and being part of our practice today. And then when you're ready to close Keter, to close that portal, to really close it, to make sure that it's closed and you can visualize it growing smaller and smaller and smaller. And taking a deep breath in and exhaling. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes to a new reality of how you experience your day today. I'm going to actually stop the recording for right now. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining the session today. Thank you so much for joining the Masterclass of the Sefirot. I hope that you can implement these teachings, because that is the real work. That is really, it's such a great practice to have great teachings to know, but the real idea, the real work is to implement it. And that's really when you know that the Torah is a part of you. Thank you so much for joining. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm available. I'm here. Thank you so much. Sending you so much love.